Hi, I'm Jo Fallows. My company is Jo Fallows Wellness. I'm based in Shrewsbury, Shropshire, and I offer walk and talk therapy. I take clients out into the hills that you can see in the background there, and some other local locations such as flat parks and quarries, and we have conversational therapy. So it basically is what it says on the tin. It's a walk and a talk with a trained therapist. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can find me on Instagram, which is Jo_Fallows, or you can find my website, which is jofallows.com. Thank you.
As part of our Dyslexia and Me campaign, we are talking to incredible individuals around dyslexia and also around mental health. And what we're doing during this campaign is really kind of looking at strategies and ways that people will help to deal with their own kind of mental health struggles. We are with the incredible Jo in the most beautiful surroundings in Shropshire. And Jo, would you mind just introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and the incredible job that you do.
Okay, so as you say, we're in Shropshire, beautiful Shropshire. We're actually in Shrewsbury, surrounded by the Shropshire Hills, which are my office.
I really feel for you having
It's disgusting, really disgusting view. And in those hills I offer walk and talk therapy, which has been around for a while, but I think is really having some sort of resurgence at the moment after lockdown. So I take clients out, as we've just done, haven't we? And I take them out for an hour's walk, and it's just conversational therapy based in beautiful countryside.
And it is, and I think, you know, as you mentioned, that kind of getting outside. I mean, for me, understanding kind of, you know, with my kind of mental health, dyslexia, ADHD, those kind of elements, you know, going back to nature is so important, and just kind of getting outside. And I guess, you know, you touched on the fact about how prevalent it is now that we're kind of past, I wouldn't say past the pandemic, but, you know, the situation with the pandemic where I guess technically everyone was kind of, you know, conformed, you know, to be, you know, confined into their homes, which is more important to kind of get out. How much do you think it helps someone's kind of well-being, just being able to kind of down tools and get out?
I think massively, and actually I coined the phrase green prescription, because that's essentially what it is. It's not going to your doctor and getting a prescribed medicine such as antidepressants or sleeping tablets. It's actually using what you have around you. It's free and accessible, and connecting with nature. It's huge, and it's going back to basics and stripping away a lot of what we use as tools and stress management. And I think just a 15-minute walk a day is all it takes, and we all have 15 minutes, don't we, where we could just pop out, I think.
We do, and I think it's, you know, I always find it difficult. So for me, you know, I love to get out and walking in nature, you know, and putting the phone away.
Yes.
For me, I mean, and that's a tough thing to do, whether it's kind of, you know, for personal or for, you know, for work use. You think, well, actually, if someone wants to get hold of me, I need to have this phone with me.
Yeah.
But sometimes the device can be a distraction because we're always kind of on it. But I feel the best time that I've been able to connect is when I put it on airplane mode and I've kind of taken it for, you know, put it in my back pocket or left it there. And then really kind of, you know, that element of kind of looking up and just absorbing those surroundings. Have you found the least amount of distractions?
Yeah, and in fact I was going to say, I used to go for walks and I'd put a podcast on or some music on, and I stopped it one day, only by accident, because I forgot to bring them. And I was like, oh, and I almost went back and got them, and I thought, don't be silly, Jo. Look at where you are. And for once I actually absorbed where I was properly and stood and listened to the birds and, you know, just the wind in the trees, and just that in itself was so calming. I've never done it since. I will refuse to. If I'm doing jobs around the house, I'll put the earphones in because I quite like it, because it pumps me up, but I don't need that for a walk, because I get everything I need from the walk. I don't need the distractions from elsewhere.
But it is, you know, sitting with you now, I can hear the bird song in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely, you know, glorious. And I always think to myself, you know, like when the you know, the evening's coming in, you know, 5-6 o'clock or something, and you can hear the bird song, and it is that real kind of connecting with nature, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, to kind of take you back, you know, literally from what it was before. There are so many distractions that we have, and when you do your, you know, your walk and talk and therapy, do you find that when you're with someone that they're kind of living in the moment, because they're, even though they may be talking about the past or anything else, but there isn't huge amounts of distractions?
Yes, it's a good point actually, because I do person-centred therapy. So that is all about bringing yourself into the present.
Okay.
So it is a fabulous way of describing it, actually, because you do want them to be there and experiencing what's on offer, but also talking about things from the past but putting it into present context. And it helps perfectly, and it is a natural distraction, walking anyway. You know, the natural rhythm of walking is soothing. But there's a saying I heard the other day, actually, and it's stuck with me. I'm like, I like that, so I'm going to use it. And it is motion releases emotion.
Wow.
And I like that. And it is powerful because, and it's funny, actually, I've had some clients and they're like, oh, I never cry, you know, I just hold it all in, and I'm like, you might find then, whilst walking, it comes out a bit more. No, I don't think it will. And I'm like, we'll try, we'll see. And they're just overwhelmed by floods of tears, actually. But it's in quite a nice way, because there's no tissues handed. Because I think a tissue has stopped crying, I don't know what to do with you. It's like, just let it out.
It's almost like, oh, I need to stop this, and stop the tears from flowing, and that. It's an amazing connotation when you think about that. And maybe it's come from a helpful point of view, but generally it is kind of stop, and those elements of being able to feel those feelings and be able to kind of let them come out freely is very powerful.
It is, and I do think nature helps with that, because if you're in a room, for example, and I traditional counselling definitely has its place, and as was discussed earlier, I have my therapy, as you have to, moving forwards for myself, but sitting in a room for me is it's like an interview, and I'm such a I'm quite motivated, and always I think forward momentum is a very good thing for me and a lot of people. So sitting down in a room, eye contact, and you're like on show, I think for a lot of people it's just too much, and they don't often go back. So it is finding the therapy that works for you. But I think if you're with someone that is completely enthusiastic about just walking in general, which I am, and that's my background, hiking, then I think that comes through, and I think that they, and they're learning routes. So when the therapy ends, they've also learned quite a few routes that they can take themselves on. So it's a continuation of the therapy.
Absolutely. And I feel that element of just walking and talking is kind of, it is a natural, like you said, it's a natural ability that we do. And I guess with the emotional side of it is, sometimes it's difficult, I'm not just saying, statistically for men, but to speak to someone and really kind of speak and open up and trying to stop that kind of, not bravado, or probably not using the correct terminology, but there's a certain responsibility, I guess, for anyone to think, well, you have to be in a certain way or seen in a certain way. So those moments when someone's listening, but really listening,
hearing you,
like when you ask someone, how are you, but you're saying like, no, how are you? It's a completely different way of doing that, and I guess you must have seen those experiences where someone is actually, this person, you're really listening to me.
Yes, you do, and I think it is, and I say to them, because before I see a client, I'm not salesy at all, even though that's my background actually, but I'm not with this, because it isn't, I'm selling what I do, obviously, but it's...
And you're helping so many people.
Yeah, that's right, and it is a service, obviously, but I do discovery phone calls, so I'll do a free 10-minute discovery phone call with all potential new clients, and it's just a way for me to explain to them what to expect, and just to say to them, look, this is your forum, this is for you, it's completely confidential, we've got all the contracts signed, just to be heard for once, because so many people in life don't feel listened to, whether that's in your workplace or by a partner, or so it is me completely listening. And I try as often as possible to have them slightly awkward silences, because that's when they think, oh, I'm going to add more on to that.
Those awkward silences are so powerful. In any day walk of life, when if we looked at, say, comedy, for instance, when someone's telling a joke, that the pause is the timing in there. But then if we've done that in the sense of, when you're listening and you're not doing someone you're talking to is not doing 100 different things because life's busy. And not judging in that as well, not being judgmental about, well, if I say that, what's the reaction? There isn't anything really connected on there, and I think that's really powerful, and I think more conversations should be had.
I do.
Around this and understanding what different therapies are out there to be able to help them.
Yeah, I think so, and I think actually on the back of lockdown, when we were allowed out for our one walk a day.
Yeah.
I think that's where my idea was born from, because I missed that connection so much with just going for a walk with somebody, because it's just such a natural thing. I used to walk to school with my friends. I'd walk into town with my mum. You just walk with somebody. You take it for granted, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
So for then us all just to be put into isolation and no contact, I think I really utilised. I used to go out for like 4 hours for my one walk a day, to be honest. but utilising it.
Each time,
yeah, that's it. The dog was like, no, please. But yeah, I think I realised quite how important it is. Yeah. And I know everybody can go for a walk, but it is that element of having someone listen to you whilst walking.
But there's going for a walk, and then there's going for a walk. It's almost, when I mentioned about, and you mentioned, you forgot your phone, for the music. It is those kind of moments where you actually listen to yourself, and I guess we all live very busy lives, so we don't tend to listen to our own bodies, what we need, and tune in and actually ask ourselves, what is it we actually need? We're in this roller coaster of things that have to be done, and and support for other people and these things, and sometimes it must get to a point where you think, well, actually, not at your breaking point, but you're at a point where you're like, I just can't do this.
What do I do?
What do I do, and what support is there?
Do you know what one of the most powerful questions that I ask my clients is, actually, and it takes them aback often, and that does cause a few tears sometimes, because they'll talk to me and I'm listening, and then I'll just say, well, who supports you? And then they're like, oh. And I'm like, who really does support you? Because you've come to me clearly because you need some support, but outside of this, who are you going to go back to, and who's going to support you? And you do find a lot of people have a support network, but they don't use it. Yeah. It's very, they just smooth over it. When you see someone on the street, hey, how are you? Yeah, good. You're dying inside, but you're not going to say, I'm really bad, and just want to cry. And people, it's just that.
Do you think
stiff upper lip?
Yeah. Do you think that sometimes as well, that if you, like in your mindset, you think, well, actually, if I opened up to that person at that time, it's not going to be received in the best way, or they won't know how to deal with this, or judged in that way. Not, sometimes not in a nasty way, but generally, it does seem, we do live in a very chaotic, busy world, and everyone's got their own different things that they're going on. So I guess it's, what would you say to someone if they're, if they're in that kind of position of wanting to talk to someone? How do you think they should kind of start going around?
So I think the start of that journey will then be in actually admitting that they've got a problem, or there's issues that they'd like to resolve, perhaps, and it's all about getting them to resolve them themselves. Even though I'm there, I'm not giving advice. It's not advice given therapy. It is person-centred, which is the humanistic approach of them having the toolkit to manage.
Which is so powerful.
Going forward. It is, isn't it?
Incredibly
powerful. It's readjusting the way your mind is working, really, or refiling things in order that makes more sense.
Absolutely.
So that's the first thing. If they can admit and be brave and strong enough to go, I need to stop and have some help here, then the search will start. And I think it's paramount that they properly look at what's out there, because, like I say before, traditional therapy works brilliantly, and it has done for years for a lot of people. Men, I think, more so prefer the physical element of what I offer, and I think it feels a bit less like therapy. My ratio is higher male than female at the moment, and the females want a flat walk. The males are like, let's get in the hills, come on, let's go.
Because it's like a challenge, I guess. It's almost like, okay, so we're going to go for this hill, but actually I want to do that one.
How quick can we do it?
But if that helps in that side of it, then so be it. And then you're all for it. But it's amazing. It's incredible what you do, because it is that. You can see it, from a male point of view, I guess, from the challenge of, I'm going to get up there, I'm going to do it in time. But what was said during that walk is so powerful, because, like you said, you've just listened.
Yes, that's right.
And then they'll take away and just feel heard.
Yes.
And that can be really powerful.
And I find that with some people. Some people come very regularly, and some will just come for a complete dump, as I call it. And they'll be like, I just want to come and see you when I feel I need to. And I'm like, that's absolutely fine. I don't tie anyone into anything, because it's, it's very fluid. But they'll come and then they'll have a massive dump, feel so much better, but be like, I don't even know what I said. And I'm like, but that's great, because I've listened to it, and it's kind of, it's not parrot fashion, but it is relaying back to them what they've said to you, but in a way that they can make a bit more sense of.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. It's like guiding them through their thought process.
Absolutely, and you know, we're all on journeys, and we're all on journeys of of learning, as well. And I guess, if someone said to you, someone said, well, actually, I think you should go and get some therapy, or you should be doing this, or you should speak to someone. I guess the first instance is, that's not for me. It's not
Yes.
for me. But it's really prevalent. What you said is admitting, and then kind of breaking down in the sense of just spending a little bit of time to kind of work out what it is that would best suit you. And again, even if you go for that, that you could try so many different other elements, but the first thing is so powerful, isn't it? Just admitting in a sense to yourself that you need that little bit more support,
and accepting that you're open to change as well, because you will change, and your thought process will change, and actually some people in your life might go and some people might come, because of it.
And that's the thing, I guess, isn't it? Because we tend to, we surround ourselves with a certain circle, whether it's, friends, family, all the other bits, things that make up this wonderful world. And again, if it is, isn't it? If you start changing yourself, then your behaviours will change, and other things have to change.
They do.
All round, which I guess could be quite difficult.
It can be difficult, definitely. Sometimes very positive.
Yeah.
Because you get tied to things, don't you? Almost like you have to. It's a have to do. And I think when you evolve yourself and you work on yourself, you perhaps see other people in a different way. And it happened to me. I'm talking from a personal experience as well. Actually, you kind of have a bit of a filter, and you're like, that's not working for me anymore. And we were talking before about energies, positive energy, and being able to feel the energy, and you start to be more aware of yourself when you start to talk about yourself more in an open forum, with me.
Absolutely, and again, I was, speaking about triggers before, and finding out, with my, if we were talking about kind of dyslexia and ADHD, my dyslexia and ADHD, I know that there's certain triggers that can help, that can trigger, with the mental health side of it as well. And sometimes it's just trying to understand what those triggers are, and almost taking a step back. I've learned, just recently, taking a step back and understanding, why am I triggered by that?
Yes.
And my normal reaction was like, oh, why is this, and being upset by it. But taking that moment and stopping and going, okay, why am I triggered? Is this what I actually think the reason behind that trigger is?
Yes.
And then almost, and that's difficult to do, because your
dissecting
emotions, it is. Your emotions are like, I don't know, it could be something, someone pulls out on you, or in the car, or something else happens, and that immediate trigger. So to be able to try and dissect that, it's a lethargic thing to do. It's a very difficult thing to do in some circumstances, but it's very rewarding to.
I think so, because you're understanding your behaviour, aren't you, a bit more? And every time you do it, you understand yourself a little better. So you prevent yourself, say if it is classic road rage, you beep, for pulling out. Actually, what I do now is sit myself back and think, well, maybe they're in an absolute hurry. Maybe their mum is in hospital. Absolutely. You have to put yourself in their shoes, don't you? Take yourself out of the moment, and that just, it stops there. That rage.
It is. It's an amazing thing to do, and I guess the more you do it, you then start building kind of empathy around the situation, as opposed to frustration and anger, or
changing your mindset.
It is.
Positive mindset and positive reinforcement, isn't it, of your thoughts? If you think positively and act positively, the negativity will ebb away eventually, and it'll be replaced by all this positivity. And that's when you become, and you start living a more authentic life. Because you are acting in a way that you should do. You should be courteous towards other people and caring, shouldn't you? Lots of people aren't, but there are lots that are. And I think
would make a really nice world.
Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't be having wars and things, would we?
No.
Yeah.
So if you had to kind of sum up, I mean, it's difficult summing up the incredible work that you're doing, but just with regards to how important it is for kind of the well-being of getting kind of outside, what would you kind of say?
Yeah, so I think, so I'm a trained PT as well, but I don't actually do that. I did it more to go in line with the therapy, the walking, just because I can offer that if need be, but it's never come to fruition because I love this. So it is actually combining that full circle of your physical well-being and your mental well-being, and to do so, I think walking whilst nurturing yourself in nature It's the classic circle. And I think it releases endorphins, doesn't it, when you walk?
Hugely.
So add to that the talking side of the therapy, and I think it's such a natural thing for us to do, more natural than stepping foot inside a stranger's office and sitting down and in that situation and being like, I think there's a pressure on what to talk about sometimes.
Yeah.
And people come and I don't think I've got anything to say, and I'm like, you'd be surprised you have, but
you're absolutely right, Jo. And you mentioned about, like, I guess for some people is process driven, so it's a kind of that preempt, isn't it? If I'm going to speak to someone, a therapist, or I'm going to go and into this situation, what do I need to prep? What do I need to prepare? What do I need to protect? What do I need to block? Your mind's already going, right, I'm not going to want to share this. I'm not going to share it. What if they ask this? What if I say something wrong? Yeah. And then you're in the situation where you're kind of trying to back out of it because you're thinking, actually, it's going to be a lot of questions, a lot of prying, like this, and this. So that could be quite, build a lot of anxiety beforehand, couldn't it?
And if you put it this way as well, and I said it to a new client the other day, I said, we are perfect strangers. So, we've spoken on the phone for 10 minutes, and now we've met here. So I understand if during the drive here you wanted to back out or you're anxious or nervous, because I get like that. I'm nervous because I'm meeting you for the first time. I don't know what you're going to tell me. So there is, I wouldn't be human if I wasn't, and I'm honest, and I've got to be. They can't see me as superior to them. We've got to be on a level. So I put myself on that level immediately by saying, look, I get nervous too, and this is anxiety inducing. Yeah. But as soon as we start walking, you're going to feel fine, I promise you. And if you don't, we can walk back to the car. That's fine.
Incredible, and that's amazing, Jo, that you can anticipate in the sense that you're feeling a little bit of anxiety in that side of it. You know that someone that's coming to see you is necessarily going through that process as well, and almost addressing it.
Yes.
In a real kind of supportive way. And I think I know that's really powerful, because when you can address it, as opposed to thinking, actually we're going to not talk about this, we're going to sidewind this side of it, and then we'll go straight into this.
Yeah.
I think that can be, really quite comforting for someone.
If you think of it, people are coming to you in a state of trauma or anxiety or depression, aren't they? And they just don't want that added pressure of feeling that the spotlight is on them, but it isn't. So I think it's almost like, I don't know if you've had this before, I used to years ago and I've addressed it now, it's like meeting with people, it's like, a conversation, what are we going to talk about?
Small talk.
Yes, and I'm great at small talk, actually, too much, I think. On the phone, people are like, okay, go now, bye.
You said it was a 10-minute call. It's an hour and 5.
Yeah, exactly. My dinner's ready, yeah. But I think it's just remembering that actually, some people don't talk for 20 minutes on the walk, and I'm like, that's fine too, just absorb where we are and take that in, and like I say, because you come in to talk to me for the first time, it will take to the third or fourth session, I'm like, I do trust you now, and I'm going to start opening up, and it comes out in a bit of a jumble the first session, and then you kind of make sense of it a little bit more on the second.
It's all a bit like little pieces, isn't it?
Yeah.
It starts building.
Yeah, and the trust is built as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like I say, the ones that I see quite sporadically and they come for the big dump, they're fine, but they trust me with what they've told me and they can just walk away, and it is like a real cleanse for them.
But it is, you're absolutely right, and I know we touched briefly on as well the judgment side of it is, and that's a big thing. I can only speak from a kind of a male kind of point of view of that initial judgment of okay, so if I say this, what are they going to think about that, and this and this, and I guess that can have a big impact on how much you share from the off.
Absolutely.
And one of my kind of ADHD traits is or dyslexic traits is that I tend to share a lot quite quickly, and then I reflect and think, did I share too much?
Overshare.
So like overshare, and that's kind of like a common thing for me to kind of look back on and think, did that actually happen? So you're almost dissecting that side of it.
Yeah, of course.
But in general, as long as you're polite in what you're doing, sharing, I think it's good to be able to have those conversations.
I actually put that in my contracts, the confidentiality contracts, about the non-judgmental point of view. I judge nobody. And I've heard all sorts, and also been through all sorts in my own life, so you can never judge anyone, can you? Because you don't know where they're coming from and what their background is. But that is a huge thing, being judged. It's being judged for even being there initially, and also in the contract it states, if we're to walk past somebody, who do you want to introduce me as, or do you want to ignore them? am I your girlfriend? Am I your work colleague? You know, because they can introduce me as, this is Jo, my therapist, or this is Jo, my friend from work. I'll go along with anything. So, you know, and also if I see you in public, do you want eye contact? Do you want to hello? Or does anyone know you're here? You know, so you have to ask them, because it is all about them and protecting them. What do you want from this?
Because sometimes I guess you can have people who would, they'd go to maybe their partner, their family, and say, actually, I think I'm going to be doing this. Yeah. And then it's kind of that supportive side behind, or it could just be a case of, I'm actually going to do this on my own.
Yes.
And I'm not going to tell anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Or they might be in an abusive relationship and they don't want their partner to know, because it could provoke something, couldn't it? So there's so many caveats. So you have to, you have to think of absolutely every scenario when you're laying out the contracts to protect your client at all costs, really, because you just don't know, do you? No. You know, like we say, but protecting them in social arenas, should it be the shopping centre? And I'm like, oh, hey! And they're like, I'd never do that. Yeah. You wait for them.
But it's that understanding, and I guess it's almost, if people are kind of process driven and thinking, well, actually, if there's, shame or something, feeling shame if I'm doing this or doing that, and having that conversation beforehand, I think it touches on so many points, and it puts someone who's already kind of anxious, into a good
stops them from worrying. Definitely does stop them from worrying. And there's some of the probably top 3 questions I'm asked on that initial phone call, actually. What do I do because we're out, aren't we, walking? And Shropshire's not huge, so it hasn't happened actually yet, but it could, but not yet have I been out and someone's gone, to the person I'm with, oh, hi, because it is. And you must think of that before they come, mustn't they? Must think, well, what happens if I am seen out with her? And so it is. I've tried to think of everything that I would probably think about myself and put it into motion for them.
Jo, it's been absolutely phenomenal speaking to you.
Oh, thank you.
An absolute gorgeous partner.
That brings us to the end of this interview. Throughout the month of May, we've had a focus on mental health in correlation with dyslexia and how the two are related. If you'd like to learn more, please feel free to click this link here and learn more from Dawn and Elizabeth Wynn as they speak about some of their own experiences about dyslexia in correlation with mental health. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.